This chapter of the walkthrough will cover the basics of setting up standard labor and standard crews. First, we are going to go into standard labor and set up one example of a labor ID that can be used in your standard crews. You will be working from your database project. Click on Standard at the top of the Walls and Project screen and then click on Standard Labor. The Standard Labor screen lists all of your labor or employees for the field. Click on the Insert button in the lower right corner of the Standard Labor screen. This opens up the Update Standard Labor screen. Enter your labor ID and description in the fields provided. For the purposes of the walkthrough, you can enter something as simple as Demo Number 1 and Demo Labor. The first tab is the Summary screen, which will list the hourly rates for the wages, fringes, and burden. There will not be any data on the screen until you fill out information in the other tabs. The Wages tab will list items such as base pay, overscale, and vacation pay. Fill in the first blank field under Description with Base, and then change the amount field to $5. Moving on. The Fringes tab is where you would input health and welfare, pension, and apprenticeship training. The Burden tab will include items such as Social Security, workman's comp, federal unemployment, state unemployment, and liability insurance. Click on OK and you should now see your new labor ID listed on the Standard Labor screen. Set up a labor ID for each field employee and you'll be ready to create your crews. Click on Close and return to Walls in Project. We will now go over setting up standard crews in the database. Click on Standard at the top of Walls in Project and then click on Standard Daily Crews. Once the Standard Crews screen is open, click on Insert. Update Standard Crews will open. The upper left corner of the screen has a field for Crew ID. You are only allowed to use one character for Crew ID. You can use any symbol, number, or letter on the keyboard. Put a D in the Crew ID field. Tab over and fill in the crew description. For the purposes of the walkthrough, you can enter any description at this time. I chose to use Demo Crew. You can always come back and change this field at any time. Click on the Insert button and you open up Update Standard Crew Detail. Click on the down arrow to the right of the empty Labor Equipment ID field. This brings you to the Standard Labor screen. The labor ID that you created will be listed on this screen. Double-click on your labor ID. This will return you to the Update Standard Crew Detail. Your labor ID will now be in the Labor Equipment ID field. Move down to the production line and enter 8 in the regular column under hours per day. Note, only the hours entered in the production field and layout field on the Update Standard Crew Detail screen are considered production. Supervisor, sawman, and tenderer are considered support labor and do not calculate any production. Now, move to the lower left corner of the screen and enter the quantity of production or bricklayers that are in this crew. Click on OK, and you should now see your labor listed on the Update Standard Crew screen. You would click on Insert and repeat this procedure until you have the crew for your project assembled. The process to enter your equipment is the same as your labor. Click on Insert while on the USC screen. When back on Update Standard Crew Detail, change the type from labor to equipment by clicking on the radial button at the top of the screen. Click on the down arrow for the Labor Equipment ID field and you are brought to the Standard Equipment screen. Double-click on the piece of equipment you want and you are back on Update Standard Crew Detail. You can change the quantity for the equipment on this screen and then click on OK. Your equipment is now listed with the crew you have built. Press F1 on any one of these screens for more detailed information. Return to Walls in Project. You are going to want to go through the Standard tabs and set up your contacts, mortar, material, crews, labor, and equipment before you start an actual takeoff. This can be done for each individual project, but it is easier to set it up before you begin a new project. Note: if you do make changes or additions to the above listed items while in a project, you can update them to your standard listings. The last item we are going to cover in the new user walkthrough is Preferences. Click on File in the upper left corner of the screen. Next, click on Preferences. This screen contains your default settings for the program. This will list your default crew, mortar, work hours, tax rate, etc. In other words, this will be data that comes up in each new project you create unless you make a change within that project. I recommend that you go through each tab and utilize the F1 key to gather more in-depth detail. This concludes the new user walkthrough for Tradesmen's on-screen 3D estimator. The walkthrough is designed to give you an overview of the basic features and tools within the program. You will need to crawl, walk, and then run. Proficiency with the software will be achieved by repetitive use of the screens. The screens are designed to be used in similar fashion so that once you learn how to maneuver through one set of features, you should be able to use the rest. Utilize the F1 key when you have any questions or are stuck, but please do not become frustrated if you cannot find the answer you're looking for. Remember, support is free for the first 60 days. The answer will only be a phone call away. Call for toll-free support at 1-800-429-9002. 7 days a week, 7:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Central Time. Have fun and be productive. Thank you for using Tradesmen's on-screen 3D estimator.